Hello, my name is Matthew Kelly, and I'm an intern here at HOMTV. And today I'm sitting down with Jane Greenway, the Senior Parks and Land Management Coordinator, to talk about an upcoming project the township has planned, as well as a grant that they applied for to help fund the project. So Jane, can you please tell me a little bit more about this grant that you're applying for and a little bit more about the project?
So every year we apply for grants primarily through two programs. One is through the state. It's called the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund. And the second one is through the feds, and that's called the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So that one is national park money. And then the state ones is like the state money, the trust fund. So what we're doing here is we're applying for an acquisition grant to buy 1.85 acres of property. And when you apply for a grant, you have to provide a match usually, and then they give you the grant money. So this property is right next to Nancy Moore Park. And currently the entrance to Nancy Moore Park is really weird and no one can find the park. You turn in off of Okemos Road, and then it's like, you kind of don't, even no matter how many signs we put up, people can't find the park because it's like in the back. So we think that buying this property will provide a better and safer entrance to Nancy Moore Park. And Nancy Moore Park is part of Central Park, which is over 200 acres of parkland. And Nancy Moore Park is the kind of the sports complex where a lot of the flag football, soccer, ultimate frisbee, all that goes on. So it's a pretty busy park. It also has the small dog park. But the good thing about this property is that it's also along a regional trail system. And eventually there's plans that are, I think, about to be constructed, plans to connect Michigan State with Lake Lansing North Park in Hazlet. And that pathway will go along the Red Cedar River, kind of behind like Foods for Living and Crunch Fitness and those strip malls. And then it will go through one of our land preserves that's across from Nancy Moore Park and then continue on. So this little piece of property, it's small, but it's very important because it can be a little area for maybe a restroom, a couple parking places, benches along that pathway, because a lot of people like on the river trail and stuff, they go and park and then they go ride. So we're calling this grant, when the state scores the grant, they look at all these different categories. And right now, within the past few years, trails have been a big deal. So you get a lot of points for trails. So when I'm writing these grants, I try to tie it into a trail. So we call this, we kind of laugh at ourselves because we come up with such gimmicky names to try to get the money. But we're calling it the MSU to Lake Lansing Regional Trail Hub Acquisition. So that's, it's a trail hub, a hub along a trail, this property. So right now there's an old house there that's in really bad condition. And we would plan to demolish the house and just have it's sort of a missing piece of a puzzle, this property, that it just is logical that it's part of our park. So really it will provide, I'm just reading my proposal description here. This unique property located centrally to trails will provide necessary facilities to create a safer experience for residents in Meridian Township and beyond, as it lies among a regional trail system. So that's really it, is that our residents, when we do our parks and recreation surveys, the highest points are for walking trails and bathrooms. Because, no matter what age you are, what condition, everybody likes to walk on a trail. Not everybody plays soccer or plays on a playground, but everybody from someone in a stroller to grandma likes walking and needs a bathroom. So that's what this is. And we're asking for $127,500. And then our match would be $42,500. And we hope we get it. We find out in December if we get it or not. But these grants, we've been very successful in getting millions of dollars of grants over the years. And that's what allows us to develop parks and buy property.
Can you tell us about the plan you have for that plot of land at 5280 Okemos Road?
Sure. Right now we have what's called a conceptual plan. So it's almost like a real fuzzy general plan of what we'll do. And essentially, we'll have a couple of parking spaces, a bench or two, maybe eventually a restroom, and just some trees. So it'll just be a spot to rest. We will also plan to eventually reroute the entrance to Nancy Moore Park through this property for better sight distance visibility when you're turning in and out of the park.
So how do you think this will help benefit the community?
I think that it will improve the trail system by providing a little rest and reprieve facility for the trail users that are looking to explore our community.
From what I've read, there's also like a small property on the plot of land. So what do you plan to do with it?
We plan to knock it down. There's an existing house there that was built in the late 1800s, but it's in really poor condition. And sometimes just because things are old doesn't mean they're worth saving. And if it were, obviously we would save it, but it would be demolished.
So what can the community do to help?
They can write letters of support, and those letters could say, we support the Parks and Recreation Department applying for a grant to improve our trail system, and stuff like, our family are avid trail users. And one thing that is interesting to me, we all love trails. Everybody loves walking or riding bikes. But one day a lady came into our office asking for a trail map. And she needed it because her son was mentally disabled. And he has a job, but he can't drive, so he walks. And it was just kind of cool that that's how he gets to work. And that's good. Imagine not having a sidewalk or not having a trail and having to walk on the edge of some, Grand River, some busy road. So it's not just for recreation, it's for transportation. These trails, and they're able to be used by everyone, whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you can walk, whether you walk slow, whether you like to run. It's just a universal thing. So that's kind of cool.
Have you received any letters of recommendation or letters of support already?
We have from just families who live in our community who like riding bikes. And we have wherever you go, not just Okemos and Hazlitt, bicyclists are very vocal. They are really supportive of they just are, and of their needs and their desires. And so we have a Facebook group. Well, we don't, but there is a Facebook group called Friends of the Meridian Pathways. And so I sent it to the main person the admin for that site, Tim Potter, and he sent it along. So that was nice of him. And then I've gotten some letters through that. So when I do that, I kind of write the letter for them, and then they basically just copy it and then put their name. But those letters get us support points. They get us more points for the grant. So that's a good thing.
Can you explain the process on how to get these grants?
You have to be government or a school or a Indian tribe. So there's only certain people who can apply for them. And then you have to be a registered landscape architect or a registered professional engineer has to sign the grant application. So it's this thick. Here it is. So thick. So you just fill it out and say who you are, how much money you want. And then they ask you tons of questions, like what are the costs? What are the, all the different scope items in the grant, what's the value. You have to have all the natural resources that are there. You have to apply to supply like all the deeds and super old paperwork showing that you own it. So we have to go to the park commission and then the township board and get approval, and they have to pass a resolution saying that they will come up with the extra money, the local match money. So that's that. And then the grant people over at the DNR score it. So they go through each of these categories, like natural resources, or what are the other, like you have to give them a maintenance plan. You have to tell the local, the larger, like tri-county regional planning, you have to go to those meetings. It's a ton of work, a lot of work. And then they score it and they give you a score, and then they give you an opportunity to kind of address the areas that you were sort of weak in and to give them more information. And then in December, the grant coordinators give their list to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Board, and they decide which grants they want to give money to. And there's millions of dollars to hand out. And we've been in situations before where we've scored really high and we should have gotten the grant, but the trust fund board will like skip around and like not give it to us, which is kind of annoying because it's like, you know, they have this whole scoring system, but some years they just, you know, different people, it's sort of political of who the grants go to. And the state of Michigan also applies for these grants themselves, which is good. Like last year, a huge chunk of the money went to buying a bunch of land in the Thumb, like on Lake Huron. And I mean, that's a really good thing because then everybody can enjoy it. But unfortunately, then we didn't get one. So, I mean, it's okay. But it's kind of sad to me. I mean, Meridian Township is lucky to have my position to write these grants to get more money. But smaller communities don't have the money to pay me, you know, to get the grants. So when I retire, that's kind of what I want to do, is like go around up north and like help communities get grants to improve their parks, because they just don't have the staff or the capability or knowledge to do this stuff. But on the same hand, it's kind of like affirmative action. Like we also get points knocked down because we're in an upper income level. So you get like, it's just like getting into college, affirmative action. Like you get more points if you're poorer, and you know, all these weird things that come into play. So, yep.
I know you said that you were hoping that you would know that you would get the grant by December.
Yes.
So if you do get the grant, when would this project be done?
So then I would think like a year or two probably, because you have to demolish the house. Well, you have to like close on the property. So formally buy it from the sellers.
Thank you, Jane. And thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Please be sure to stay tuned to HOMTV for the latest Meridian Township news. Have a great day.